Yeah, so welcome, everyone. We're excited to be here with all of you. And Kathleen Black Coaching is honored to host the webinar that we're about to go into as your one-stop shop for educational resources and proven systems. We're here to help catapult your business. And I have no doubt that the story you're going to hear today is going to not only inspire you, but give you tactical systems, tips, and tools that you can implement to grow your business in the same way that our inspiring guest has done for herself.
Every time I invest in coaching, I have way more than a 10x return. And 80% of our clients, data driven, have that as well. You're tapping into a top 1% mindset. I ran the first team-specific coaching company in real estate in Canada. This has been my entire world. We need to have leadership, technology, and our operators on the field in alignment. So things need to be really crystal clear of how do we provide value at every single step of the way. We're in a time where everything is packaged. But once you get into the elite space, you need somebody to come in, look into that business, and help you see it from a bird's eye perspective. I always say the person you're coaching with, do you aspire to be like them? Do you enjoy their values, right? Do you feel aligned with them? Because essentially you're trying to create the path that they've carved for you. Our clients who had the most results went from 25 deals to 550. The ISA departments that have 300 firm deals. We help them learn how to pay their team members and how to onboard and train those people who do 1,000 deals a year plus. Those people got there because they had expert one-on-one advice with the right coaches who had the genius to help them. So we're bespoke. Every time
We are so excited to have all of you here today. Let us know in chat where you're joining us from. We have over 500 people actually registered for this webinar, for this mastermind. I'm sure some people will get the recording, but I just want to see where everyone is joining us from. I don't know if you're all in the heat wave today that some of us in the GTA and Golden Circle are still experiencing. Hamilton, Kitchener, Vancouver, Alliston, Port Moody, Collingwood, Alberta, Quebec. We're well represented across Canada. Welcome, Nanaimo, Woodstock. Excellent. Well, welcome. We are so happy to have you here. I love seeing the representation across the country. Beautiful. Let us know if you have a heat wave as well. I'm just curious as a non-air conditioning user myself. So on that note, we are so excited to welcome our guest today. Rachel Harsevoort has had an amazing journey. It's been an honor for us to be able to work with her. And I know so often, you know, when we do Ultimate Team Summit, now Kathleen Black Summit, people will say to us again and again, you know, the big teams are so inspiring, they're incredible, but how did they get there? You know, we don't see the step-by-step how to actually achieve that in our business. And we've always understood that middle to be actually the most difficult part to navigate. So we're so excited to have Rachel here, who's going to be talking about her journey going from what I call solopreneur to a teampreneur. So I want to give Rachel a proper introduction so you all know her a little bit better if you have not met her as of yet. With a passion and background in home construction and interior design and owning homes in Hamilton, Ancaster, and now Burlington, Rachel took to real estate naturally early in her 20s, but more seriously in 2011 as a licensed assistant and a buyer's agent. In 2016, 1 year before adopting their daughter, she made the decision to enter the world of real estate on her own. And now in 2024, she's expanded to create the Rachel Harsevoort Real Estate Group, adding on another licensed agent alongside her and her administrator. Rachel's focus on branding, social media, authenticity, and genuine care for her clients and their real estate goals and successes have driven to the success of her growing business. Rachel's now ranking in the top 1% of her local board in Hamilton, as well as achieving top 2% nationally across Royal LePage, Canada, which are amazing achievements. And you're going to hear that they were achieved in a very short time. She as well in 2022 was the top individual agent for her brokerage at Royal LePage State and would be still, except for she decided to grow and build a team. Rachel has been part of Royal LePage State family for 13 years now, but isn't just passionate about helping families find their next home. She also currently serves on her church on the worship team by way of piano playing, singing, and loves being part of the Burlington and surrounding area community and school events where she's either working or volunteering. You can also see Rachel shopping, hosting dinner parties, hanging out with her closest friends, and doing renovations with her husband, Jeff, and her daughter, Molly. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. That was a bio and a half. Sorry, guys, you had to listen to that all.
It only feels long when you're the person
I
waiting.
know, right?
When I go on stage, you're like, oh my goodness, it was so long. But it doesn't feel as long, typically, hopefully, for those joining, because it's an incredible journey. And that's what we're here to learn about today. So I won't keep slides up the whole time because I want you guys to be able to see Rachel more closely. But I want to follow along with a few things to take you through her growth journey today. So Rachel, I wanted to start with something that you might laugh at a little bit. We started working together with Rachel and our team here at Kathleen Black Coaching at the very beginning of 2022. So I think January 2022. And every time we have a new client come in, there's a strategy call that's done. So I wanted to share this quote that came from you, Rachel. And at the time, this was at her very first strategy call, working together and collaborating. So Rachel, you said, I just want to see more business. I need to see that your systems and strategies are getting me more leads and more business, kicking butt, taking names. I want to be on track to get to top 1%. And if I can be in top 2% within the year, that would be great. I've always made fun of coaching, didn't think I needed it, but I want to be able to do coaching and prove myself wrong. So these few years later, I had a good laugh. And any thoughts reading this now?
Yeah, boy, is my face red.
I thought it was funny, actually. It made me smile. And I
I
think a
love
lot of
it.
people feel the same, right? So given your journey, I thought it was pretty fun to share this a few years later, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for proving me wrong.
You proved yourself wrong, right? For sure. And today we're here to talk about becoming a real estate group, right? Moving from being a solopreneur to a group. And we're going to talk a little bit about your journey. We're going to get into that in a second, but can you just bring us all back? I mean, at the beginning of when you started to go into coaching, I mean, why did you want to build a team? You know, I think some people think building teams is easy. It's certainly not. You know, the success rate for teams is very similar to the success rate for people getting into the real estate industry. So take us back. Like, why did you go on this journey? What did your business look like then? And where are you at now?
Mhm. Yeah, so even I would say, Kathleen, when I started coaching, I don't even think I was ready to build a team entirely. I had just kind of started with the admin process, and I know we're going to talk about that, but even just hiring another agent, and in 2022, I guess that was, I was nowhere in my future planning thinking about making this into what it is now, having another licensed agent and now two admins. So yeah, like it started very maybe naive a little bit, and just thinking, okay, I need to have some systems because even as a solo agent, my systems were awful. So just getting that sorted out, and then it just led to where we are now, very organically. And I was terrified, and I know my coach and you personally, you know, very much brought me through that journey of being scared to hire somebody. But here we are.
Here we are. And, you know, I think over the years, most people start a team out of necessity. Like there's something in their life, they're like, I can't sustain this, or something becomes too painful, or they lose out on something. Other people do it just because they want to build, you know, they want to grow. For
Yeah.
you, looking back, which was it a bit of both? Was it one way or the other?
I think it was more, I needed something to, I was getting busier, so I needed something to balance that life that I was not really leading, because I was letting everything else fall by the wayside, trying to keep up my business on my own. So I knew that I needed an administrator for sure. That was like the first thing that I knew, but to take that step to do that. And then again, it came to be that, yeah, okay, let's grow this and make this. I don't want something huge, but just something that's going to work for everyone now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember as an agent, looking at it and saying, what's next? I'm not willing to do less sales. In fact, I want to do more, but I also want more time. I remember people saying, well, that's not how it works. I'm like, yeah, it is, right?
Yeah,
That's how leverage works. So let's figure that out.
yeah,
So I love
exactly.
that. It was kind of, hey, we need some help and to take
Yeah.
some time back, which makes sense for sure.
Mhm.
Just gonna move us forward. And I wanted to share, sorry guys, I have to do a different style share screen than I usually do, but I wanted to share an example of a recent podcast that Rachel, you did actually with Kate Broddick, who is, another beloved member of our community. You did an amazing talk at Kathleen Black Summit about moving away from ego and what that really means as a leader and how difficult that can be in this industry, particularly. So let's take a peek.
Start passing some of this off and just knowing that there's people that are much more capable than I am at certain things. It's huge, right? So once I kind of got over that, and that's that whole, ego sort of thing, once I kind of worked through that, then it was like, yeah, this is absolutely how we need to do this. And I have that with our admin as well, like that it's just, we sit at literally we sit at a table for team meetings and like.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It's awesome.
It's amazing.
We come in our sweats and coffee.
Yeah.
And I was also at that point where I needed to start leveraging, right? Yeah. So I was at a point where, for me, I was missing out on my family time and whatever because I was so busy. And it was like, I need to start passing some of this off and just knowing that there's people that are much more capable than I am.
And I love this example for a few reasons. Number one, I mean, Rachel, you have a podcast, which I want you to have a shout out for because it is incredible. But when we looked for clips, Rachel said, all of my clips are my guests. They're not me. We don't have one. So we were really happy that Rachel was recently on Kate Broddick's podcast so we could do a share there. But Rachel, what is the name of your podcast if anyone here doesn't know you and they want to follow your journey after today?
Yes. So I have a podcast. It is called The Smart Move Podcast. The Smart Move is my tagline. You'll see it everywhere. So the Smart Move Podcast, we are on Instagram as the Smart Move Podcast as well. And then we are everywhere, Apple, Spotify. What else is there? YouTube.
Yeah. And you have a ton.
Wherever we stream, those places.
Yeah. So you can follow on Instagram and get great clips. I see it all the time from there for sure. Yes. So let's get into the growth journey. And we have a lot to talk about because you've accomplished a lot in a few short years. I mean, essentially we've worked together 2022, 2023, and now we're only halfway, not even, into 2024. And when I look at your growth journey, I was like, we think that, we've been collaborating for years more than we have. So I wanted to start by talking about in our community, we have 3 different levels that we go through in growth. So we start by supporting solopreneurs, which is a Relentless to Rise program, which is where Rachel, you started in January 2022. And then as somebody in our community gets busier, more clear, more confident, the productivity is growing and they're like, I need some help. I need to leverage. That's when they go into an expansion phase. And that's where we build out, systems and foundation and make sure that you're actually growing in a way that is stable, right? Because a lot of time business growth isn't necessarily stable, which can be scary. And I think, Rachel, you're an example of a more strategic growth. And finally, the third way we help people is as teampreneurs, which is called the Industry Icon Program that, Rachel, you moved up to just I think this year. Was it in the start of 2024 or just before?
It would have been because we hired Marcy. So October, I believe, like late fall.
Oh, in 2023.
23.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I wanted to share this because today, Rachel, as we go through the journey, we've categorized in these 3 steps so everybody understands the journey that we're going on and what we're sharing. And we're going to be talking about the goals, Rachel, that you set for yourself each year, the systems you put in place, what you achieved, and any advice looking back, because sometimes people say, okay, it looks so easy, you did this. Well, what were the hurdles, right, in real life, which business always presents for us, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a reminder, this is something I say all the time, but I wanted to share it here. High performance truly is a team sport. when we talk about being successful, when we talk about failures, I think sometimes we think about it as this thing that we do on our own. This person was successful, this person failed. But the reality is it's all about who we surround ourselves with and what they're thinking, what their mentalities are. So today is really exciting for us because, again, it's all about co-creation. It's about collaboration, which is something we believe in so much, and not competition, where we close our books and we hide what we're doing. In my experience, the people that grow the fastest are 100% collaborating and supporting each other. And I know, Rachel, you're a big advocate for that as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, sorry. Absolutely. You are. Absolutely. So we started working together on the Relentless to Rise program, which is all about your path to personal expansion, leadership, performance growth. That's what we're looking to do. So I want to talk about your goals at the start, because I went and actually grabbed them, Rachel, and I was like, oh, she only wanted to accomplish a couple of things. So seeing this list now, when you first started getting really serious about this expansion, bring us back, like, how were you feeling? We highlighted these things coming out of your strategy calls, what we thought were the top priorities.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you were feeling then? And did you have clarity on where to go next? Because I think you were trying to accomplish a lot.
Yeah, I'm like reading that. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Um, did I have clarity then? No. I think I knew, like, as I see these highlighted ones, like the scripting and the buyer, I had been, before I came with you, I had been doing, how many years would that have been? Like 10 or so years, 11 years on my own. So I knew scripting-ish. I had my buyer and my listing presentation-ish. But it was mostly just like, let's go into the house, fly by the seat of my pants, and here's hoping I get the listing, right? So I didn't have anything that was giving me confidence to know that if I was up against two other agents, that I would come out of there with the listing. And that's what I wanted. So I knew, I guess, clarity, yes, I knew I wanted to really fine tune that. My perfect week and scheduling and time blocking, I'm still a work in progress. Um, it is, but it's something that I needed. I had no balance anymore. So I knew that was something that I needed as well.
Yeah. And I think it's always a work in progress. I'm trying to remember which year, but one of the years at Summit, we actually went back and shared my week blocks, right? Because I do a perfect week. So I have blocks of what I want to be doing. And we shared it when I was selling real estate, when I was selling real estate and coaching, when I was full-time coaching, when I moved into CEO, and then when I got smarter about it. And now we're still always refining it, right? Things change and it grows. I think everybody would relate to that. But sometimes we don't know what we don't know. When I looked back at my schedules, I was like, what were you thinking? You know what I mean? But now I think every time it's like, it's very difficult to be aware of that. And you also had a goal to be number one in the office for individual
Yes.
agent and
Yeah.
top 1% for your board.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those were big things. And I think too, actually, now that I'm reading it and thinking back on it, I think those were, for me, it wasn't about being so much number one in those areas. It's great. Not many people really care about the accolades. I think it was more just being respected within the industry, right? And within my office. And not that I wasn't before, but just having a bit of that. I think that really, that would have been my goal there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if the world's a mirror, right? It's nice to have it mirrored back that, hey, I am doing well and I am succeeding and I am growing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
because my confidence level was at a 0, I would say, in terms of that. So just to work on that for sure.
absolutely. And so that first year, 2022, I wanted to really talk about what you worked on, because I find, we have the goals, we achieve them, but I wanted to get into more of the meat in the middle today on what actually got you there. So 2022, most important core systems, you and I talked about hiring. I went back in your file, and for all of you watching, I actually went back into, like, we have notes for all our coaching calls and our goal setting and our first strategy calls. So it was really cool to actually go back and see, well, wait, like, what were we working on? What did we accomplish? Which was fun. So the I added a core system when I went back in your file, Rachel, and that was our inside out method, because that's where you do letter from the future, values, goals, break down all your conversions, right? And then reverse engineer it with perfect week and momentum makers, so that we're actually working on what's going to get us ahead and we don't stay in that overwhelm. So that was one of the systems I added. And then the second one was the hiring process. So tell us a little bit about where you were at. I know there's notes here, but take us through what you were trying to accomplish then.
Yeah. So again, like with that, the letter writing, like the letter to the future writing, all the goals, the visions, values, and goals, those were things I've never actually in all my years done. And so to just get that clarity of where I actually am sitting, and kind of doing that reflection work, which I still do that to this day. But just to figure out, like, what is it that I actually do want out of this? What do I want to get from this? And then what do I want to get my clients out of this, right? And then building that confidence, that was a huge thing, just the imposter syndrome. And I speak of that a lot. But that one hit me hard, and I needed to get out of that. So that was kind of where we started. And then it was, okay, I need to do that. So when I'm looking at what my clients need out of me, I knew I needed to get an admin, because they weren't getting me anymore, right? Like I was so bogged down with the paperwork and the back end stuff that I wasn't able to put myself fully into a relationship with them and helping them as much as I could. So that was when it was like, yeah, we need to hire somebody. We got in touch with Kate Tevis, who is the HR pro, and helped me along with you to hire now my admin, who's been with us, yeah, since 2022, Izzy. And like she had no admin experience, but it was just like that gut feeling in the process that Kate made me feel as well, so confident in with her guidance, that I knew it was going to be a sure fit, and here she is.
And we'll talk about the steps in the hiring process, because I think it's such a great fit. And I was looking if Kate's here, because I know she would have tried to pop on, but I didn't see her. But it's so important to get that clarity, because I think sometimes we go to HR or go to, a headhunter or recruiter, but we aren't clear yet as leaders. And this is why that inside out method, I know anytime in my career, Rachel, where I'm unsure, right? That's where the imposter syndrome comes up, because it's like, well, I'm unsure how to move forward or how to do it properly or what's my best next step. And as leaders, that just ties our hands, right? So always the first thing is, what do I want? What does it look like? Then, okay, how do I get there? And how do I get some leverage? So we love working with HR Pro. We're affiliated, but we don't have any kickbacks. I'm just letting you guys know, because then we can coach kind of the job description. Who do we want? Who's that ideal avatar? Have all the steps in place and leverage somebody for our time, which, I mean, Kate does a phenomenal job and her team on that for sure. So these are the core systems. And the first one, inside out, I just wanted to make sense of it for everybody joining us today. For us, there's 3 pillars. So the first one, again, is that inside out model. How do I build a business around you? Like, Rachel, your business is unique because you have unique strengths, you have unique weaknesses. We all do, right? You have areas that you'd want to get off your plate first and other areas that you don't. And I think there's this misconception in team building that the way one team leader builds is good for another team leader. I mean, for us, we've helped thousands of teams, and no two build exactly the same because we're different, right? And sometimes we don't know ourselves, and that's a big blind spot.
And that was huge, actually, Kathleen, that you said that it was very, and which helped with that confidence, is that I don't have to do it the same way that this person did, right? And just to, have that guidance through it to be specifically for me, right? That was just, I really appreciated that. Just to plug you there.
No, I love that system. I do it with myself every year. It helps me get in alignment. So I believe in it too, personally, let alone with all the other people. But for you, Rachel, where do you think you shine the most, as in, what do you love and brings you the most joy that you knew you didn't want to take off your plate? Like, what were you like, I don't want to leverage this piece. I love this piece. This is why I'm in the business.
Actually, yeah. So, I mean, other than being out with my clients, like I love going and seeing houses. I love sitting across tables from people. Like that's my jam. But I knew right away the one thing I wasn't going to leverage was actually my social media account. And I am still doing it along with the help of my assistants and stuff, but we have not hired that out. And that was one thing I'm like, I just want my voice there. And I should hired it out because it takes up a lot of time, but here we are.
Yeah, well, and I think again, this is why it's unique. It was the last thing for us to leverage too, because
Yeah.
for me, it's very unique to your voice for sure. So essentially, it's getting clear, who are we as a leader? What are our strengths and weaknesses? Because I always say, hey, like if my weaknesses are leading the show, we're all in really big trouble. And I'm sure the same for you, Rachel. We all have them. But after we're clear, then it's, hey, what systems can we put in place so we have that trust, our business can run more smoothly, then we optimize it. For you, Rachel, what do you think was the most dangerous weakness that you needed to get off your plate? What would have posed a problem to the business if you didn't leverage it?
My micromanaging. My control. I feel like I need, and that comes with ego, which I have now learned. But yeah, it was definitely my control thinking that no one else could do these things as good as me, or even better. Like, fun fact, my assistants and Marcy, my agent, do a lot of things that are much better than how I would do it. So leaving that, if I still had that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the things that sometimes we are great at, we tell ourselves, I do this better, so I'm going to keep doing it. But our businesses get busier and busier and busier, and we don't realize that even if you're good at it, your standard of service is going down
And
because
that's
you're
the
just
fact.
so diluted, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that is what was happening.
Yeah, well, most of us
Mhm.
in business building have been there for sure. The other thing you did in that first year was obviously hiring. So we talked about it was a combination of working with our hiring system as well as working with HR Pro, which is a great combination. For you looking at this hiring system, did you try to hire before? I think you did, right?
Yeah, I did through Instagram. And some things worked through that. And this one, what I needed to be kind of tailored specifically to this role, because even going into that, I didn't know what the role exactly entailed until you and I had chatted. And it was like, okay, this is, here's some job descriptions and whatnot, that I wouldn't have known. So yeah, I needed the help.
And I think you talked about interview questions. How did you feel? But do you remember? It's been a bit. How do you feel about interviewing? Any advice?
Oh, I I feel like my advice wouldn't be good because I was very and I do remember this. I had interviewed four, so we had 21 candidates. I had interviewed four, and then I went with Izzy. And Izzy had no experience, nothing, but what stood out to me is that we sat on the phone. Kate had to send a new link because we were talking over our hour time. So hers was a gut feeling. So maybe that would be my advice, is like sometimes the person that has all the credentials. I do remember someone, she had so much knowledge in CRM, which I needed to build, so much knowledge in this, that, and the other thing. But I also knew she had a very strong personality, I am a very strong personality, and I could feel like, yeah, my brain says I should go with her, but my gut was like, no, let's go with Izzy. She has no experience, but this is something that we can do together and come up with something. And now she's, yeah, I would say one of my, like, I don't want to say closest friends because there is still that divide between employer and employee, but yeah, she's, I would say, like a little sister to me.
Oh, I love it. And I think for everybody listening, if you haven't, gone through hiring or it hasn't been successful for you over the years, I think there's a lot of people have been really gun shy about hiring again because they've had bad experiences. when you're using systems and steps, you have that assurance so that you can listen to your gut. And what I find is when you don't have the systems and steps, sometimes we listen to our gut and we go in the wrong direction. Like there's been team leaders who hire every single person on their team is the same personality because, for example, Rachel, like I'm thinking of one in particular, he was a really high D, like
Yeah.
very, very high dominant. Every single person on his team was a high I. Right.
Yeah.
Because they were detailed, they wouldn't push him. Like it was all high energy and great. But when it came to like any details or systems or specifics, it was all falling apart because he had great people, but they weren't the right people for certain roles because
Exactly.
there was no checks and balances or even job description, right? To say like, hey, who's the right person for this? And because you did that, I find the same because I follow all the steps. I allow myself to listen to my gut more because I know I've done so much sifting and sorting.
Absolutely. Yeah, and doing the disc really helped as well, right? Doing my own number one, because I had no idea where I was in that. But then, yeah, now getting, and as I've continued to hire, doing those few steps that you give us, like it is just, then, yeah, exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah, I was just curious for everybody joining us. I mean, throw in chat. What do you think is your, we'll look at it after, but what do you think is your top tool that you trust the most when it comes to hiring or recruitment? You're like, I would not bring somebody into my business without doing this set thing. And here's why. Because I think it would be great to hear from everybody here what you're really relying on. So
Yeah.
we'll go through because we have 3 phases to go through, and I know we have a lot to share today. I want everyone to get a sample of all of the systems that helped you grow, Rachel. So that first year, I went back in the notes, and I know the second year you have a CRM, but I laughed when the note said no CRM, only using an Excel. So we're at the start of 2022. We don't have a CRM, but your results at the end of that year with coaching, you actually increased your business. When I went back and looked at your numbers, 250%, right? You had a massive jump there. You hit number one, you did hit the top 1% in your real estate board and RAB, and you did hit top 2% in national standings in Canada with Royal LePage, as well as you did hit that top individual agent in the brokerage. So you actually met all of your goals right in that first year working together, which is amazing. So at this point, this was the year before we worked together, 2021. And then this is 2022. So any thoughts at that point? Like, were you feeling like, wow, this is amazing? Like, were you on cloud 9? Were you run off your feet because you were still trying to grow? Like, how were you feeling at the end of that year? Because you kept doing a lot.
Yeah, I honestly, Kathleen, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I was feeling like this, I think because again, we had these systems in place that it was just like a seamless thing. And then all of a sudden, all these accolades kind of come forward and I'm like, oh, hey, we did that, like stuff like that. Like I wasn't, that's another thing that I started doing is I wasn't tracking, right? So all of a sudden it's like, Izzy and I are at the end of the year and my brokerage is calling me and saying, you made top 2%, like all these things, you're number one individual. I'm like, pardon me, what? Like, let's take a few steps back here. So I think because it was just such a good systematic way of building, it felt very natural, I guess.
And all high performance is process driven, right? So I see that high performers are always focused on the process, whereas average performers are focused on the goal or the outcome. And it is different. The process brings you to the goal, but it's a very different focus point. So I think it's interesting when you try to just stare at a target that's not moving, you don't have great momentum. But when you're like, oh, I've done my vision, values, goals, I have reverse engineered exactly what I need to do, I have my perfect week, this is what I need to focus on. And then magically it comes. I have some goals that I worked on for like 5 years. I tried to focus. As soon as I just kept working and let it go, boom, the phone call came. Like, you got to be kidding, right? I did everything to have that. Now I'm just working away and it comes doing nothing, right? Like working on the right thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was just doing the processes and then it just happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So we continued to grow because then we're going into 2023. And for everyone joining us, Rachel moved up. So I'm following along the journey here. So you're moving into that expansion phase or you're getting more serious about, hey, I need more of a foundation here. I need a little bit more leverage. I need to build out systems that are going to protect, my brand, the reputation you've built, your clients and your business as you grow. Because you grow, it can be easy to lose a lot if we're not growing in the right way. So that middle program is called Top 1% in our world. And that's where we move from solopreneur to teampreneur with as much ease as possible. So your goals going into 2023, your word was different. We're going to see in 2024 it changed. But Rachel, your word was elevate. Do you remember why?
Because I wanted to, again, elevate all of my systems. So there were a few things that I wanted to do within my systems, but then also within my business. And one of that was starting the podcast. So I wanted to just take what I do with my clients, my buyers and sellers, and just like bring it to another level. And I'm very focused on educating my buyers and sellers. If you're kind of around this area, you would know with the podcast and stuff, it's very education driven. And that was one thing that I wanted to kind of go, and just looking back, giving back. So just even that, like I work within my community a lot, but then being able to actually give back to them, and not just with donations, but of my time, right? So those were some big things. And then obviously it all turned into hiring somebody as well, another agent. So
as you grew, and again, these are literally the goals out of Rachel's coaching notes. So I want to kind of prompt, because I know some of you might be looking at this and saying, okay, I need to get clear. I want to set goals. I need support in doing this. There will be a link in the chat to learn more about us, or to book a strategy call if you want to chat and set some goals similar to Rachel, because we love obviously being able to share this in retrospect. So goals in 2023, still to be top 2% in Royal LePage, to maintain top 1% in your board. And I want to point out that, some people, it's not easy, but it's easier to have a one-off high year, right? Like we've all seen people, double their business, or like Rachel did 2.5 times their business in 1 year, but sustaining it is a completely other thing. So I want to point that out as we look at this growth trajectory. And I know going into the second year, you had noted that you wanted to work a little bit more still on the listing and buyer presentations at that point as well. So Rachel, I've got the notes here, but tell us a little bit about going into year 2, 2023, the team's shifting. What does the team look like? What's happening then?
yeah, so I got the lovely phone call that my amazing admin is now pregnant, which we are so happy for her. But at the same time, you're like, are you kidding me? So anyways, Izzy, she was pregnant. So she was due in January 2024. So she's had her baby. She's a beautiful baby girl. And so it was then like, oh crap, we need to now totally pivot, because I'm thinking I've got you for a few years. We need to totally pivot. I have no way of telling someone else how to do everything you do, because we just kind of did that together. So we knew, and that's where you guys came in, and I was like, what do we do? It was now time to get our SOP in order. So Izzy spent about 3 months, I want to say, just building that out. Like this, Kathleen, I got to tell you, like our SOP is banging. Like it is so good.
I looked at it last night.
Yeah, and Stacy just like took that and ran with it. I didn't have to really do a thing other than when they had questions. And then once she went on her mat leave, it was so easy to hand that off to our new admin and say, okay, here you go. Call me when you have questions, right? Obviously there's some training in there, but yeah, that was a huge pivot we had to do. And it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And now we're set up for, if that were to happen again or in a different manner, it's all done. And yeah,
within 1 year, I just want to point out. So SOP, Rachel and her and Izzy worked with Stacy P, one of our coaches whose genius area is admin training and standard operating procedures and all that kind of great stuff. And I have a screenshot in a minute, because I looked at your SOP and it is beautiful for sure. And you have everything. This is why in that expansion phase, I'm wondering how, I think you've already alluded to it, Rachel, but it can feel slower when we're used to being out there and doing deals and making money. You're like, what? Like, my admin's going to spend 3 months, creating this standard operating procedure. But in your case, I mean, I want everyone to think about it. Imagine if you had 3 turnovers of admin within 12 months.
Mhm.
right? How could you possibly do that? And Rachel, essentially, you've had that happen. We're going to talk about that why, for good reasons, not anything negative, but you had that happen. And I think most people watching this are like, I've had times where I'm up at night not sleeping, worrying about, oh my gosh, like how's somebody going to come in and do this? But you've got the full business documented. So when that turnover happens, I mean, I'm sure it took you can tell us a little bit, but it seemed like it was pretty smooth.
Yeah, so we had hired, so what we had done, in retrospect, I'll kind of chat about maybe that wasn't the best move, but we hired Marcy in October, and we had hired her as, so she's licensed, as kind of like a mat leave, admin role, but then she would also be helping out with some of the sales stuff and whatever. And then once Izzy was to return, Marcy would go straight into sales. So that was great, grand, wonderful, until we were so busy that Marcy was not focusing on her sales stuff, and she was just admin, and it was a not a great time for Marcy or for myself, because I really wanted her to, yeah, I wanted her to focus on what she's good at in the sales realm. But we didn't know we were going to be that busy. It was like winter. Who's busy in the winter, especially coming out of 2023, going into 2024 when it was pretty junk. We had our best quarter in 2024 that I've ever had in my life. So we had to again pivot. So I think that was in, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, in the new year, we then had to hire another admin. So now I'm on admin number 3, technically. But because of this SOP that we built out and are still continuing, like we're in there almost every day, switching things, fine tuning things, but because of this SOP, we were able to have her trained within 3 weeks, and she's running on her own fabulously.
Which is phenomenal. And I want to show an example. I've got one in a second. So core systems, number one, budget. And you talked about a lot of benefits of doing the budget, which I've heard from, I think, every leader who's done it over the years. Initially, we don't want to do it, right? Budgets aren't the most fun, but you talked about becoming more clear, financially aware, knowing where the money's going, and you scaled back certain areas and amped up other areas in order to have growth. So I'll show an example of a visual of the budget in a second. But the second system was that SOP, which is going to protect the business with turnover and allow less disruption. So again, three different shifts all together with admin. And I'm just going through this quicker so I can show some examples. So this is an example just of the first page, but I wanted people to be able to see, I mean, on the left, you have all the different sections, Rachel, of your SOP. And that's not even all of it, not even close. That's just the start of it. So I wanted people to have a sense of how comprehensive this is of your business. Like you have everything in there, how to deal with the podcast, how to do price check, like just everything.
Yeah, I think ours is like 30 something pages now. And there's video links. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. And where do the video links go to? Instructions?
So yeah, and it's actually a video of Izzy like doing, like, this is how you do this. And it's like a video of her doing it. So it's so foolproof. Like I could take this and start being admin. Yeah.
Why do you think it was worth it?
I think because of the time that it saved me in the end through these pivots, right? So from the pivot of Marcy going out of admin and straight and full on into sales, and then now hiring Maddie to have her ready to run with it. And we hired her when we were still quite busy. So just having that as well. And then now even for me, like because I've leveraged a lot of my business, I can sit here and, you're a little bit more hands off with certain things. So sometimes I have to go back and be like, how do we do that? Right. Like it just is a really great tool to have, even as a solopreneur, right? Just to have in your business.
It's funny. I remember it was in 2016, the first Ultimate Team Summit. We had a panel of leaders. They're all names we know, like they're much bigger even now. But anyway, but it was interesting because there was a Q&A, And people started to ask these team leaders, like, well, how do you do this? And how do you run your min? And how do you do marketing? And it was almost hilarious as the team leaders started saying, well, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, go talk to my admin, go
Yeah.
talk to my marketing person. And after, people are like, well, how was I supposed to learn? I'm like, by going to the admin session or going to the marketing session. Like, this was the CEO session. I mean, team leaders, essentially, as you get busier and busier, you are the CEO of the business. So like you said in the podcast reel, right? You're handing off to people who are more capable, and then your time fills with these
Yeah.
other areas that helps the business grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, yeah, again, getting rid of that control and ego there was huge. But I say it to Izzy every day. I mean, she's on mat leave now, but when I would introduce her to people, I'm like, she runs the business. Like, don't look at me, like, look at her. Right. So yeah, and I'll stand by that for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to SOPs, like in our community, so when we were, Stacy P was helping Rachel, but when I build this out and the systems and tools, I mean, we have multiple templates and examples and things you can put in there. But over the years, I've got to say, I mean, most clients have said to us, I just want a template, it's done, and I can just adjust little things. And it's like saying to somebody, well, just set up my CRM without customizing it. It doesn't work. I mean, could you imagine, Rachel, like just getting our template and only filling in what we said? Like, I would say it would be not useless, like it would have some value, but it would probably have like 35-40% versus what you've been guided to do here.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And here's an example. I didn't go into it because our budget, as you guys can see on the bottom, has when Rachel is in top 1%, we have different business plans for each of the levels. So now, Rachel, that you're in team, there's an even bigger one, but there's all sorts of different tabs and information we look at. So I didn't want to share everything, but this was a visual example at the time when you were forecasting going into that second year. And I think now, Rachel, tell us the experience. Like, what did you get most from the budget? Why did you resist it before? Maybe you didn't, maybe you're just too busy. Like, what led you to do it that particular year?
Yeah, number one, I had no clue where my money is going. I have a problem. I like to shop and I like to spend money. So it's very easy for me to just be like, yeah, sure, throw your money everywhere, right? Then the end of the year, tax man comes and you're like, what? Where did that all go? So just to then now be in my business and say, I know what is exactly going into my marketing, what's going into my personal expenses, this, that, and the other thing, so that I was seeing this and noticing, like, I am spending this much money on this where I could, kind of scale back and throw it into something that we need more, right? So it just really, it's funny how they call it a balanced budget, but like it's a thing.
It is a
Thing.
thing. Yeah.
Still working on it, but it's a thing.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to move money and be like, oh, all those little things I thought weren't adding up, oh, wow, I spent $6,000 on that last year. Like, I could have put that into lead gen or into client gifts or an event for sure. And I think
Absolutely.
at the time you did this budget, you also well exceeded your goals. So I was looking at it and be like, you ended up to be way ahead of this, but that was maybe your conservative planning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I do have a bit of that, but yeah, that was like on the low end of where things were. And then to be able to put money back into the business was huge.
Yeah. And do you remember specifically any areas where you put money back in?
Into my marketing for sure. And then and that includes my podcast, right? Because that was the year that we were kind of elevating in that stuff. And then client events was the other big one. So I love doing events, and that's something that I find everyone else loves too. So events, including our giveaways, we do very big Christmas giveaway, 12 days, and then we do a few throughout the year that people love, and I actually get a lot of business from doing stuff like that. So
And they're so well done. If you don't follow, I obviously follow you, Rachel, and all like your podcast and your Instagram. But if you don't follow Rachel, I mean, I'm always in wow of how organized and how beautiful your giveaways are and how polished and each message, right? It's lovely. Like, I watch them. I
yeah,
watch all like, what are they giving away now? And
I
what are they
know.
doing? Like, they're really great. And
We
people
are
get
already planning for this Christmas. So it's like, yeah, we put a lot of time into it, but it's a lot of fun. We love to do it. So
Absolutely. Okay, cool. And I know we've got a few minutes I want to get through. So end of 2023, same thing, you met all your goals. And from the start of us working together, at that point, you had a 300% increase from where you started. And bonus, you started a podcast,
Mhm.
which was on your initial goal. And I laughed because it said with Kathleen. So when you asked me, I was so honored. Of course, I want to go on your podcast. Absolutely. But you reached everything. So 2022, you killed all your goals. 2023, the exact same thing. So I'm going to go through this quicker. So this is where we were at the end of last year. So
Mhm.
again, we're at 300% increase from the start at this point, not per year. And you moved up again. So
Mhm.
some people might say, okay, why would you move up and pay? You just did your budget. Why would you move up and pay more money and go up to team coaching? So I want to ask you that first. Why did you do it? And what did you need in order to move forward? Like, why did you make that jump?
Yeah. So because I had the money in my budget, so that would be another place that I was able to put it, was to put it back into coaching. And because I knew at this point I had just hired Marcy, and I wanted to she had been doing sales a bit, but just really get her there and build up that confidence. I knew I had to focus on her, and also focus on my admin. We do admin calls as well, but for me, I was able to kind of step back a little bit in that sense, but to just really put it all into my team, into Marcy and into Izzy and Maddie.
Yeah, for sure, because they need direction, definitely. So this year going in, you had a new keyword, which was refine, and I missed it last year, but as of 2023, you also had a CRM, which you're working with Royal LePage Sphere, so Royal LePage's custom version of KV Core, and you had 5 goals. Number 1, leverage. Number 2, top 1%. And CRM, building it out, budget, and hire a director of ops and a runner, which we'll talk about in 1 second because I'm just making sure that we get through everything. So at this point, Rachel, where's the team at? Because this year you've had a lot of shifts. So let's just, so everyone knows where you're at currently.
So currently Izzy is on mat leave, and she will be back in December. She might come back a bit earlier, but we're a December 15th date. We have one licensed agent, Marcy. She's doing phenomenal. I think she's on this call. So hey, Marcy. Um, but yeah, she's doing amazing. And then we have hired our other admin, Maddie. So she's part-time right now. And then when Izzy comes back, we're going to kind of create 2 roles, one for Maddie, one for Izzy. Izzy more in our director of operations role. So she will kind of she'll be the boss and she'll tell me what to do. So it's great.
Great. I love it. And this allowed the part-time hire of Maddie, obviously allowed Marcy to go into sales and not get tied up in all the admin because you were so busy, which is a good thing, but not good if you're
Yeah.
not able to move forward. So core systems this year, getting hire ready again and or recruit ready because Marcy was shifting over. Your CRM, building it out. And then the third, the mindset. The number one thing you talked about this year that's shifting you as a leader is mindset. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I wanted to show some examples. So for you, CRM, before I show examples, why do you think you needed it most? Because some people are like, yeah, we have a CRM, we can email, we have our clients in there. Now at this point, building your team, why build out the CRM? Why organize it more? What are you looking to get there?
Yeah, so we are, like I said, we're still in it, but because I added Marcy to it, right? I obviously needed to kind of hone in on those fine skills there. Seeing what she's doing, sending leads, stuff like that, and just making sure that we're not letting stuff drop, right? And that's where we were. So we're really kind of working on that. And then, yeah, hopefully by the end of the summer, that was our goal, is that we're just, really focus on having that running so smoothly.
Yeah, for sure. And I know there's a whole bunch of little steps, but I'm already going to go a bit over time. So I'm watching. But in order to shift with Marcy, I mean, you did work at looking at how to compensate a sales agent. What should the team agreement look like? What type of clauses do you need in there? And then, the recruitment aspect, the onboard training, which is a really specific system that we work with with Marcy in order to get her trained on all the core pieces of real estate so that she can convert and do well really quickly. So one thing I want to point out is that you're already giving all of the first-time buyers to Marcy, and your comp structure allows you to do that without having to worry or hesitate, which I think a lot of team leaders, particularly this past year, have had to say, oh, like I've got to hold a little bit more of the leads or opportunities because, you know, the business wasn't flowing as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was something I had no clue about comp structures or anything like that, right? So just to know like there's actually something set out for me. And then for Mercy too, it gives her a little bit of trust that way that it's like, oh, I'm not, you know, going to leave you hanging or whatever, right? That it's just kind of set there.
Yeah, and Marcy said yesterday, she's like, I've been in the business, but I've never felt organized or as confident or to know what I need to do. And I mean, me being my personality is like, I can't imagine not knowing that next step. But I think so often we don't in this industry, right? We're just trying to kind of make it work, but it can be really, really difficult. So Rachel, you're investing in a lot of training there, but Marcy's also learning a lot and leaning into it 100%, which is great. So I wanted to show an example here. This is a CRM checklist. This is just the first page. It's like 4 pages long of, hey, what do we need in a CRM? And we work with KV Core and Follow Up Boss. We also work with Chime and, you know, any of the other like Mindshare platforms. We help optimize CRMs. And right now we're building an ecosystem that's a plug and play where it's all pre-built operationally and prospecting and, you know, all the different client plans with Follow Up Boss. And then we'll do the same. We're in talks with KV Core as well. Most of our clients are on one of the two. So that's why we're going through. So I just wanted to show that there's a lot more than just using the CRM when we're optimizing a team, and the accountability you were talking about, Rachel, is so important. You know, what actually is happening, not to reprimand, to help, right? If we don't see the data or see what's happening and people are struggling, it's really difficult to support them in ramping up their production. That's for sure. And this is an example of onboarding. Rachel, if other team leaders are here and going like, why would you invest in onboarding when they're just getting started? They're not making money yet, you know, all that kind of great stuff. I mean, first, you're giving leads and clients, so I know you want to have trust, but for you, why did you invest in onboarding, and would you do it again?
Yeah, and I invested because I didn't have the time. So for me to spend the time that you guys spent with Marcy onboarding her, I would have lost 6+ weeks of being out selling. So for me, that was a pretty obvious, yeah, why would I? Also, I feel, again, one of those things that I don't know how to do as well, right? So it's like, I know how to do it. It's all up here, but the second I try and explain it, I don't really, you know, scripting, stuff like that. Me personally, I've never been a huge scripter, because it just kind of came naturally that way. But for Marcy, that was something that she did need help with, right? So in things that I could see in her that she needed help with, I wasn't able to give her. And in the onboarding, you were.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as a company, why we're so serious about it is, I mean, typically, if you look at the data for an average producer, let alone in Treb, you know, the world's largest real estate board, it can take 5 to 7 years to get enough data to know how someone's producing, right? Like 30 leads, 30 appointments, 30 deals. I mean, the average agent isn't doing big numbers. And in onboarding, we can get 80% of that data in the first 6 weeks and the remaining 20% in the first 6 months, because we're teaching and testing constantly to know exactly how someone's showing up, how they're performing. You know, in the first 2 weeks, we can be like, wow, they were late, they missed the second training, they didn't learn anything. And you want to know that in the first 2 weeks, not in the first 2 years, right? As a business owner.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, if that was to have happened with Marcy, I could have made that, you know, call much earlier in seeing how that went. Right. So
luckily it's not what's happening. Marcy, shout out to you.
yeah.
Just to hear
She's
that.
better than I am, actually. Let's be honest.
There you go. It's often the case.
Yeah.
So this year so far, as we're starting to wrap up, I mean, you already mentioned Q1 first, our best, you're breaking your record for best Q1 ever, and you're on par so far for best Q2. I didn't have up-to-date numbers after I spoke with you because I was away for a few weeks. So I only have up until May when we spoke, which I think was like not the end of May. And you were at 24 deals already, and your goal is 35. And that doesn't include team deals, any of Marcy's deals. So you're well on track to beat your goals again.
So end of May, June, I think we did like another 6. I would have to double check too, but I think we did another 5 or 6. So I think we're almost at our goal, if not surpassed.
Yeah. And
By
not
now.
even halfway through the year, which is pretty phenomenal, because at this point, I think you'd be 350% increase since we started working together, and you're going to exceed that. So you might go to 400%, which is cool. So as we end out, you said something again and again, and I thought it was really, really important. You work with a few coaches in our team with, Marcy and yourself, but some of our coaches are really highly trained when it comes to mindset and holistics and energetics and whatnot. And you work with one of those coaches, and she's absolutely amazing. So big shout out to Marissa. But you said personally and professionally, mindset is your biggest shift of 2024. Can you talk about that a little bit for everybody listening who's trying to figure out, how to grow and what to do next?
Yeah, so it started with the personally. You have to get, especially as a leader, but I would say just even as a person, like personally, I had to get my mindset right to be able to lead anybody. It had to come, I had to get over that feeling of insecurity, imposter syndrome, and then hugely the ego that comes with this business and in anything. And realize that I need to expand my view of that actually agents can help each other. Like we can, it's such a big word right now. I find it's kind of a buzzword is, collaboration, but it's true, right? So I have, even within my own small circle, I have, 4, 5 colleagues of mine that we have even with us. We've got our group chat, and we work off of each other, and we ask for ideas, and we support each other, and we hold each other accountable. We'll bust each other's, if we have to, but at the end of the day, like you need that in this business. So just personally kind of getting over those things to realize like I need people around me to support me in doing that. And then from there, I think it just went into professionally, realizing that I am, good at what I do. I am respected in the industry, and those are things, yeah, I work on it every day. It is always reflective work that I do with Marissa almost weekly. But yeah, I focus on my mindset and just make sure I'm healthy there.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that we all need that, right? That we're all consuming everything, not just food, right? Thoughts and other people's words and marketing, everything. It's around us all the time. And it can be really easy for those things to get to us. And some of us are more sensitive than others. And I think the minute we're leading other people, it's this whole new responsibility, right, for how we show up in our energy. Rachel, so I think it was really important that you talked about that. Like, hey, this is the big thing for 2024 as you're continuing to grow, right? You guys aren't stagnant, you're continuing to grow. So at this point, so far, you were on track, 350% growth by the end of the year. But at this point, you're absolutely going to be ahead. I know you said you're feeling a little slow down, but we're also coming into summer and we're in a heat wave. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if you do 50% more than your goals, but we'll see by the end. Look at your face. I wouldn't be surprised at all. You're on track to do more than that, Rachel. She's making a face, but like she's already going to hit her annual goals. It's not even July 1st. So I feel like that's not too out there.
No. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, right? Like
you're doing well this year.
We're doing okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started as a solopreneur, gone to teampreneur, you started on your own, and now you're going to have, obviously when Izzy comes back, director of operations, administrator, yourself as the team lead, and one sales agent. And your trajectory has just been up. And obviously we didn't get into it as much, but I know when I read through your notes talking about, you have an amazing family, right? And you spend time with those people. And I know as an entrepreneur, my kids aren't little anymore. And I look back at those years, and for me, it was a cottage. That was my thing. They say I kidnapped them, and I did. I was like, it wasn't unintentional. But that was how I had that quality time, because it goes really, really fast. So Rachel, I don't know if you want to say anything quickly about that, because I think this wasn't all just about business. You actually commented on the reel, right? That you were at.
Yeah, so it was funny because Kate released that reel yesterday, and I was sitting at Molly's year-end assembly. Well, I knew we had a listing coming out, and I was able to actually be present and enjoy it while I knew Maddie was, uploading the listing. Marcy was there, to help out with that because it was a listing that Marcy brought into the business. So like all that kind of stuff, right? It's like I'm sitting there, which is great. Like I can be here for Molly and she loves seeing me there, right? Sure, could I have had 2 hours of my time doing work, but being able to be present for her and it was just like, yeah, I just like set up a little prayer and was like, thank you. Like this is what I needed, and it's not always going to be like that, but just to know that things are taken care of in the background and I can focus on my, yeah, on my family and those things.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I always say prosperity isn't just money, right? Time and calm, even recently being away and be like, I'm not going to post every day. I'm not going to, I'm going to
Right.
take lots of pictures and video and I just want to be calm and be here. And that's my prosperity, right? Or be there with your kids and not have to worry about what's going on. It's often I think once you have enough money, it's worth much more than money
Mhm.
for
And
most of us.
yeah, and that's what I would say is like the being 1% and being the goal, this, that, and the other thing, and the GCI is like that doesn't even really matter anymore. Like it's just knowing that you've got this thing kind of behind you, helping you get to that point where, yeah, I can spend time with the people that I love.
Absolutely. And there was a question, who your coach is, but Rachel, I know you coach with a couple of people, so I'll let you have well, Marcy and yourself.
Yeah, so myself, I coach with Marissa. She's yeah, I can't speak enough praises about her. And then Marcy coaches with Stacy P. Maddie, I have her on the weekly admin calls that you guys do with the full coaching. So she's doing those ones right now. And then if I need to step back, then I've got bank calls that they can use.
Yeah, which is nice. You can kind of move it around
Yeah.
as needed for sure.
Mhm.
And I think, one second. So I wanted to end off and just let everybody know, if you're looking to collaborate with us. I mean, obviously, I hope you guys can tell how much we love working with Rachel. And Rachel, we're truly so proud of you. Like I remember when you weren't sure about going on stage and you were nervous, but you did it. And like just seeing you grow and grow and grow honestly makes our whole team very, very happy. So Rachel's gone through all three of the ways that we can help you or work with you. So first is, again, solo agents, Relentless to Rise. It's for individuals. You can be on a team or just on your own, both work. The second is Top 1% Life. So if you're looking to move from a solopreneur into hiring an admin or moving bigger than yourself. And the third is Industry Icons, which is team coaching. You don't need to be at 7-figure yet to get into team coaching, but we definitely want to get you there. So the minute you want to recruit or know how to pay your people, anything like that, you would move into team coaching. So I wanted to share some words from another client who reminds me a lot of your growth trajectory, Rachel, because he went up all the levels as well. Oops.
I met Kathleen almost 7 to 8 years ago, and one of the biggest things she's done for my career is reshape my brain to that real estate can be operated like a business. There are individuals that are real estate agents, but they don't work the buy side or the seller side, and they have their team working things. When I first quit my job at Rogers, my goal was to really do around 3 to 4 deals a year so I can match the income that I was making at least at Rogers. And one of the biggest things is the conversions. Kathleen is very, very big on, yes, you can be performing in a certain element in your career, but what would it mean to your business if you were just converting higher? What would it mean if you were getting it 80% of the time? That 30% jump, what does that number mean to you? I recommend Kathleen because she's very big on helping you know where you are right now, helping you tweak your business so that you can just convert higher to perform more.
That some of you might
I met Kathleen.
we don't need to listen to it twice. Some of you might know that was Kenneth Toppin. So when I first worked with him, he literally was trying to transition out of another full-time job. And he just said, I just need to make as much, right? And he's done phenomenal. So it's been a joy to watch and work with him too. And at this point, we just want to invite you, if you'd like to chat with us about your goals or how you could achieve them or set some goals the way that Rachel did, so you can knock it out of the park. We would love to connect with you. This link here goes to a strategy call booking. I am this summer doing them myself because I don't head out on my next speaking tour until September, and then I'm gone all of September. So I'm really excited to connect with a bunch of you next week or this week, depending when you book, and talk to you about your goals. And Rachel, thank you so much. I don't know, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you have any parting words or anything you want to share at the end, I just want to give you the opportunity.
Well, I mean, obviously, thank you for this opportunity. It's great to, I hope everyone did take a little, I think that was my biggest thing. I was like, I hope people like get some value out of this, because over, that span of time, it has been very valuable to me. So I guess, yeah, if you're good at solopreneur, keep doing that. If you feel yourself like ready to be that high performer, and you can be a high performer as a solo, but if you want to, like these, I would say you absolutely have to be involved with you or in some capacity to get there in an easier manner. It's not always easy, right? But yeah, to get there and not be super chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easier having a Sherpa for sure. I mean, I have it in all of my areas of life as well. So at this point, I know we kept you all a couple of minutes over. I am known to be long-winded. I am sorry. But I think I agree, Rachel, that there was a lot of, we hope that you feel a lot of value is provided. It was worth the extra 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Please follow Rachel on Instagram, as well as her podcast, The Smart Move podcast. She'd love to stay connected, as would I. So we wish you all an amazing day. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.